In today's video, I wanted to continue with my adventure through the main story featured in The Witcher. Last time, Chapter 2 had ended off and Chapter 3 had just begun. After reporting my findings to Raymond Marlove, the private eye insisted that both Kalkstein and Ramsmeet were Salamandra's accomplices. From there, Geralt was sent off to outright assassinate the criminal underlord, and he worked on a plan to corner Kalkstein in the swamps. My work in the marshes involved helping out the locals and gathering all 10 of the Sephiroth. These included tasks like making an offering to the statue of Melitelli, clearing the clay pits of drowners, battling ancient sentries, and searching through caverns. After securing the 10 cornerstones and placing them in their respective obelisks, I was free to finally enter the Mage's Tower. Upon doing so and grabbing a powerful book, I returned outside to Raymond and witnessed the twist of the chapter. Azar Javed was impersonating the private eye this whole time. After a small battle between the Zerrikanian mage and the professor, Geralt was knocked unconscious and the two Salamandra leaders took the book. As Chapter 3 gets ushered in, the cutscene makes a clear statement that politics are going to play a huge part from here on out. Waking up in Triss's home, Geralt learns that she had stumbled across him while looking for magical anomalies. After a little bit of housekeeping, the Witcher is free to roam around the trade quarter of Vizima. Here, there are a couple of new tasks to handle as well as some old ones from the previous chapter. For example, Triss was also scanning the city for magic anomalies. With Geralt's help, they discover Alvin, the boy with elder blood in the outskirts of the city, has been brought to the hospital. Triss insists that he gets brought to her and that Geralt should directly bypass Shani. This creates some drama between the love triangle, Shani, Geralt, and Triss. It also introduces the player to characters like Dandelion, and you get an amazing bonding experience between Geralt, the Bard, and Zoltan Chivi. The final few quests had Geralt wrapping up his adventures with Kalkstein and the Mage's Tower. Surprisingly, the alchemist wasn't too peeved about the Witcher scheme. By the end of the last video, Geralt was attending a party held by Declan Levarden. Here, he encountered some of the highest powers at play in the kingdom of Temeria. For example, Thaler the Fence turned out to be the lead of intelligence. Princess Ada was hiding some dark secret. However, her and Geralt never got a chance to talk about it. Count de Wet of the Order turned out to be incredibly aggressive towards Geralt, and Bellerat the Burgomeister seemed to be very knowledgeable on all matters official and unofficial. By the end of the party, Levarden had asked Geralt to form an alliance in hopes of taking down Salamandra together. This is where the story continues. With pretty much all of the quests from Chapter 2 now closed out, I had my pick of the litter for Chapter 3's missions. While they all seemed to focus on Salamandra, each one would end up leading Geralt down a different path. Doing a quick once-over for the big three, I decided to kick things off with following the thread. This quest was all about investigating the organization's presence in the Temple Quarter, and I'd even get to speak with my old friend Jethro. Wandering through the Trade Quarter, I finally got a taste of those Kikimors the Order had spoken of. A small spoiler, but my mindset would quickly shift as to which district I liked better. Literally any time I'd go outside during the night in the Trade Quarter, I get assaulted by swarms of these monsters. It definitely got old real quick. For some reason though, the Temple Quarter was free and clear of them.
You? We must speak.
About what? You won't toss me into the sewers again.
This is how it works. I describe a job. If you refuse, it's the dungeon for you.
Like to gamble? I do.
Gamble?
I wager I can cut off your nose before you can sneeze again.
A little edgy today, are we? Listen, I know the people with the Salamander badge have long been after you. I know where they can be found. Deal with them and your problems are over. And, in the process, you'll help me out too. How about it?
We'll see. Tell me what you know.
Salamandra has nearly taken control of the drug trade. If no one stands against them...
Why should I care?
They're after you. Destroy them. Take the information you need and return here. Oh, and gather any drugs you find as evidence.
Where do I begin?
An informer spoke of a dealer called Angus who holds some powder. He works in the slums. We must know where he gets his goods. He's often at the tavern.
Right, confiscate the fist tech for evidence. I'm sure it'll all go directly in the cell to Jethro's left, and it'll never move from there. I'm eager to see how this one turns out for him. Either way, a lead's a lead. Heading over to the tavern, I briefly looked for the man of the hour. He wasn't inside, and I certainly didn't see any drug dealers outside. Well, I probably did, because this is the sketchy part of town after all, but I'd know a man named Angus if I saw one. So, resting until noon the next day, I looked up and down the streets again until finally I laid eyes on my target.
Who are you?
No matter. You Angus?
What the fuck does no matter mean?
I need some stuff.
Who said I sell anything?
Ram's meat.
This is way over your head. You're making a big mistake.
Spit it out. Who are your suppliers?
Eat me. I'm out of here.
Even editing this portion, I'm still chuckling at Angus's dialogue. His reaction to Geralt saying, "no matter," kills me every time. I'm sure you saw, but I had a 1 in 4 chance of possibly picking the right reference. Even then, I don't know if any name would have actually worked, although Ram's meat might have been the weakest option to pick. In any case, it doesn't really matter, as Angus takes off and makes a break for his home. Following the dealer, the next step is fairly simple. Entering the hideout, Angus turns aggressive, as was expected, and starts to swing a dagger at Geralt. This is a fairly simple fight, and all that's needed is 2 or 3 fast-style combos. On Angus's person, he has a key as well as a letter of recommendation. This document gave the dealer free passage in and out of Salamandra territory. Unsurprisingly, said territory is down in the sewers. Letting out my inner TMNT, I ventured to the underside and began my crawl. At this point, the drowners are just nuisances. I can't pass through to other zones while Geralt has aggro, and these things just never let up. Fortunately, they are easy kills, but boy are they abundant. At the end of the line, I spotted 2 Salamandra enforcers. These brutes were guarding the way to the base. Chatting with them, they asked for some kind of password. This could have been on the document that Angus dropped, which admittedly I didn't read. So, in the end, I was forced to eliminate them. But hey, this worked perfectly and I was free to go inside. There's always more than one way to do something, right?
Well, look who's here. Witcher Geralt.
Angus sent me.
Who you trying to fool, Witcher? You've entered a lion's den, wolf pup.
Now, the Salamandra hideout is where I started to gain some perspective. An awesome viewer commented that I should try and do some side content. This is mostly so that I can acquire new gear. As it stands, I'm well into chapter 3 and still have Geralt's basic armor, silver sword, and steel sword. My skills and abilities can only elevate the Witcher's combat so much. Furthermore, while it could be seen as strategy, if I was too afraid to face a group of bandits head on and needed to pull them away in pairs, I think that's a sign that something needs to change. Also, the heavier salamanders were now wielding warhammers. Maybe they've been fighting with these and I was just looking for a scapegoat for my own inadequacies, but I have to imagine that the damage dealt by these was much more than their flails, axes, and maces. In any case, this was where I really took notice that Geralt needed some upgrades. From this point forward, new gear would officially be on my radar. As far as the dungeon goes, this hideout was actually structured similarly to the cult slayer that's also down here. There are long stone corridors, large open chambers, closed off pathways, and even human lackeys to boot. By the end of the crawl, Geralt had stumbled across a chest that held some pretty valuable information. For starters, there was a key that allowed access to the sewers from the trade quarter. Then, there was a letter from someone named Gellert Blindheim. It essentially talked about Salamandra's troubles with their camps in the swamp. Apparently, labor and production aren't up to snuff. Allegedly, that's where they're now going to be focusing most of their attention. Sounds good enough for me. On my way out, I noticed the city guard had started to rush into the hideout. Better late than never, I guess. Taking advantage of them, I used the city's force to clear out the rest of the dungeon and secured as much loot as possible. While it felt good, there was a chip on my shoulder knowing that I wasn't fully able to do it alone.
Good work, Witcher. A few people died, but I'll turn a blind eye.
Self-defense.
Well done. The community is better without their kind. Back to business. Where hides the Fizztech producer?
Gellert's the one responsible.
Great. I will secure the evidence and the drugs. For the public good, of course. You deal with Gellert.
Excellent plan. Perhaps I should kill everyone involved in trafficking Fizztech? Or maybe I inform Vincent you're seizing goods.
What riles you? You got all you wanted.
That's the only reason I'm still talking to you. But don't give me any more orders. Is that clear?
As a bell. But we still must deal with Gellert.
Fizztech softens your brain. I'll do it.
Get ready, Geralt.
Don't worry about me. I have my potions.
Even Geralt knows that Jethro has some, shall we say, ulterior motives. The jailer practically lives off of Fistek, so in theory, he gains the most to have it seized and locked up for quote, evidence. From here, I was thinking of where to go and what to do next. It seemed like the clearest answer was the swamp. At the moment, more than a couple of quests were pointing back there. However, first things first, I wanted to look into new gear. As it stands, I have quite a few orens to spare. Fingers crossed it's enough to purchase everything I need. Well, let's just say it didn't quite get me there. For example, the smiths I went to were selling new armor, but it ended up costing me 5,000 gold, which is obviously way over budget. So I decided to hone in on swords, specifically the steel sword. While I try not to make a habit of it, I did do a little third-party researching, aka the fandom's wiki. I read that, for the time being, there's not many upgrades for the silver sword, plus it's been human enemies that have been kicking Geralt's rear as of late. With this in mind, I made a circuit of the city smiths and finally landed at one who could help me. The Order Armorer can make custom swords, and as it just so happened, I had the necessary materials to craft one of 3 options. The meteorite sword I went with did 13 more damage than the steel sword, it had a plus 20% chance of inflicting the critical effect, pain, and it had a plus 10% chance of the critical effects, stun, and precise hit. Furthermore, it would only end up costing me about 1,000 orens. While there are probably better upgrades out there, I figured that I needed to just get the ball rolling. 3.5 chapters in and nothing on Geralt's been swapped out. Well, at least I have a better edge on human opponents now. So, as it would turn out, I thought this quest was leading me to the swamps. However, the aforementioned Gellert Blindheim is actually running some sort of operation in the Temple Quarter sewers. Heading on down there, I regret to inform you that I was still getting humbled by the Salamandra. Remember the big game I talked when I took down all of Ramsmeet's men? Yeah, that was all out the window at this point. Here, Geralt was running marathons through the sewers, popping Swallow, casting Quen, and just sort of figuring things out. This is something that becomes apparent later, but everything I thought I had learned about the different fighting styles, best to toss those theories out the window. I'll harp on it when it becomes more apparent, but let's just say that group style deserves way more credit than I was giving it. Either way, with a miraculous win on my hands, I began to have a look at some of the corpses. Gellert's had a couple items of interest. For starters, of course, new steel swords would start to pop up now. Granted, they were all worse than my new meteorite sword, but still, it felt like the game was mocking me here. Next, Gellert had some sort of cheat sheet for cracking Salamandra's coded letters. I'd assume all of the higher-ups have something of the sorts. And then lastly, the most shocking find was that there was a royal letter of safe conduct. This was an official pass given out by King Foltest to Gellert. It allowed him to walk the streets at night and exempted him from quarantine. There's always the chance that this document was stolen, but nevertheless, it's incredibly strange to see on a wanted criminal. Either way, I don't want to jump to any conclusions just yet. Returning to Jethro in the city's dungeon, I reported my findings and success to him.
I killed the drug lord.
Strange, admitting to a guard you killed a human? I jest. You've done well. Now, take your payment and go.
Maybe you should disappear.
Me? I don't get it.
Deal Fistek again, and I'll make sure you're never found.
Okay, don't worry. I'm a law enforcement officer.
Farewell, Jethro. Remember what I said.
Well, theories were right for this one. Not that they were that hard to piece together though. According to Geralt, Jethro did have plans for the drug, but they went above and beyond mere consumption, or rubbing? I guess the corruption in the city runs even deeper than what was let on. With the Temple Quarter investigation all wrapped up, all signs now literally point to the swamp. The quest, Reaping Time, has Geralt chatting with Vaska about Salamandra. Since she's the village eldress, she'll probably know a thing or two about what's been going on around there. Before setting off, I decided to rest and gain some talent points. To my delight, I finally got my first silver talent. This felt like a golden ticket, or a silver one. There was only 1 point available, so I had to make good use of it. Where this becomes tricky and very personal is that I have to think, what has Geralt struggled with the most, and or what has he had to deal with the most? Obviously, I wasn't going to use my silver point on a skill like Igni, the sign I've probably touched the least. Thinking about it for a while, I decided to go general with it, applying the talent point to strength. With what was promised at level 3, I felt like I had gotten a little bit of a lot, if that makes sense. There were small upgrades to damage, parry, vitality, and a couple of resistances. For now, those would do, as in the moment, I really couldn't think about which fighting style and which sword type needed more work. Rest assured though, that answer will come up soon, and in fact, I've already spoken on it this chapter. Either way, when ready, I made way for the swamp. At first glance, not much has changed here. However, after chatting with Vaska and doing some exploration of my own, there's certainly been some progress in the area, both for the better and for the worse.
Greetings. Much has changed. Townsfolk have violated our swamp.
Who are these strangers?
Dry ones.
How dreadful.
They drove off the lumberjacks and many were slain. They carry off our kin. The water lords are angry. Only the druids dare remain in the grove.
Anything else while I was away?
A great battle between a man with a fiery soul and an elven lord.
Who won?
Our lords were victorious. Praise be to them!
May I ask a question?
What?
Tell me about this battle.
The man with the fiery soul came with his steel-clad brothers. They angered the lords and dark waters engulfed them. The one who steps lightly through shadow and whose heart is consumed by hatred went to face them. They met in a terrible, savage battle, staining the waters red. Who won, you ask? The fire or the shadow? My answer is neither.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I heard you're having problems. Drowners again?
Yes, but we have another problem.
Speak, Veska.
Bandits with salamander badges are forcing my kin to gather herbs.
That's very interesting.
They separate our kin into groups. Armed guards watch them.
Where are they?
I saw one group by the fallen tower. Please help them. I'll reward you. Their boss, Roland Bleinheim, is an evil man. Kill him.
I'll do just that.
So it took me a second to piece together, but Vaska's tale about the fire and the shadow refers to the battle between the Order and the Scoia'tael. I guess from her perspective, the Water Lords triumphed as neither side was crowned victorious. This obviously plays a big role in the game's politics, and rest assured is something that we'll get to see a lot more of. As for the task at hand, it's up to Geralt to liberate these groups of brickmakers from the Salamandra. As it would just so happen, this Roland Bleinheim, likely some fraternal connection to Gellert, is in control here. Maybe with both the Bleinheim brothers down for the count, Salamandra will get knocked down a peg. Now, while out adventuring, I stumbled across an abandoned shack. Curiosity piqued, I went on in and made quite the grotesque discovery. Judging from Geralt's disgust, whoever lives here is snacking on human flesh, organs, and bones. This spurred on a side quest called The Cannibal. There are only so many interesting missions that can slip by before I start to take notice. I was already planning on doing it, but now I feel like I definitely have to make a video on some of the Witcher's side quests. Without much knowledge on them, they appear to possess those old school, dark and quirky RPG elements that I just adore. So 100% I've got to cover them when I get the chance. Alright, rant aside, rescuing the 3 groups of brickmakers wasn't that difficult of a task. Admittedly, it was the swamp's older residents that gave me more trouble than the newer ones. The Kikimors, Bloodseekers, and Drowners were fine, but there were also the Econops lookalikes called Archospores that gave me a lot of trouble. For whatever reason, they'd always best me in combat. However, looking it up after the fact, I see that fire would have been a simple way to deal with them. I guess Igni isn't so useless after all. Better late than never, I guess. Now, as for the groups of Salamandra bandits, they were easy enough. After every fight, the villagers would tell me where their next encampment was and a little bit about their goals here. Their objective in the swamp was already pretty fleshed out. They're gathering herbs and ingredients for making Fistek. This much I already knew. As for their work sites, the game has Geralt hustling through the different regions of the swamp, fighting for his life every 10 feet and dealing with incredibly low visibility. Again, it wasn't even the quest relevant part that was time consuming. It was just getting from end to end that took a long time to do. After a while, I began just following the pathways and stopped taking the most direct routes. The marshes held every single enemy type while the dry land only had Kikimors and Archospores. Finally liberating all of the villagers, I had heard that Salamandra's main base here in the swamp was at the former non-humans camp. I'm assuming that's where I first stumbled across the Scoia'tael while out looking for Saphira. Now, on my way back to Vaska, I ended up traveling through the clay pits and made another neat discovery. All of the villagers had gone back to work. Because of my, or Geralt's actions, they were free to return to their jobs at producing bricks. While it was hard to get a read on their overall enjoyment, I'm sure hard work is better than no work, right?
I freed all the brickmakers. They confirmed Salamandra's evil deeds.
I thank you for your bravery. If you are to destroy the bandits, seek the Hierophant in the grove. The druids are watching Salamandra.
I'll do that.
I know how best to reward you. I bestow upon you the Water Lord's blessing. You may bathe in the holy waters of the swamp and rejoice.
I feel truly honored for who is greater than the Water Lords.
I'm sure everyone was thinking the same thing as Geralt there. Whatever floats Vaska's swampy boat, as long as she continues to feed him information, she could deliver whatever kind of blessing she wants. From here, the journey onward continues. While I really enjoy the ambience of the Grove, there's one glaring issue with it. I don't mind peeling back the curtain here, but there's an NPC who's completely naked and just wanders around the place. It's difficult to keep her out of frame because sometimes while chatting with other people, NPCs can just show up in frame, and let me tell you, it's happened a couple of times so far. Luckily, my discussion with the Hierophant was relatively PG.
Welcome.
Greetings.
Do my eyes play tricks? Is it Geralt, the famed White Wolf?
Indeed. How do you know me?
I've heard about you from our friend Mousesack.
I lost my memory and don't remember Mousesack.
A pity. Perhaps I can help, if you stay for a few years.
I must attend to urgent matters.
Yes?
Greetings, Honorable Hierophant. Vaska said you might be able to help with the bandits wearing salamander badges.
Welcome, White Wolf. I know what brings you here. I have heard it in the wind and seen it through animal eyes.
You know?
You battle Salamandra, and have saved many from Salamandra's experiments. You cannot enter their secret base. It is too well guarded, even for you.
Can you help?
Possibly. Their leader wants us to use nature's magic for his purposes. I'll propose a meeting where our chances will be even.
What can I do?
Bring me a psilocybe mushroom. They grow in a cave guarded by cockatrices. I will create a potion to entice the salamanders to meet us. When we meet the salamander leader, I'll help your fight.
And why do we need this mushroom?
The salamanders want a more potent version of their drug. For this, I need the psilocybe. They pester me endlessly. If I send them a sample, they will suspect nothing.
This quest, Diplomacy and Hunting, feels incredibly fantasy RPG-esque. A sacred priest is asking me to fetch a magical mushroom in a bird-dragon-infested cave. What's not to love here? I do find it interesting though that the game essentially recycles the same cave for different quests. While looking for the Saphira, it had wolves and a wraith. While rescuing the villagers, it had bandits. Now, while looking for a mystical plant, it has cockatrices? At the end of the day, it's whatever, but a second new cave could have gone a long way as well. As a quick side note, I don't have all the proper materials for a torch, nor do I have the ingredients for a cat potion, so please enjoy this incredibly dark experience with me as I try to navigate my way through here. As it stands, my only experience fighting a cockatrice is in Vizima sewers with Siegfried at my side, so I really don't have a good gauge on just how tough they really are. Well, I'm glad to report that I didn't have too much trouble with this one. The cockatrices are formidable foes, and I had to let off a fair share of silver sword fast style combos in order to just kill one. But I found myself lucky, or skilled enough, you be the judge, to be able to pull them one by one. This allowed me to keep the monsters in a trance until they died, and I'd be free to move on to the next one. I never got swarmed, and my health was never in danger at going below 50%. After discovering the magical mushroom, psilocybe, which mind you looked like all the other mushrooms in here, I was free to return to the Hierophant. Really, not a bad or difficult quest. Again, it was just hard to judge whether my plan of pulling enemies one by one was a product of being underleveled, or if at this point in the game, strategies like that were necessary. I think the answer is a bit of both. My version of Geralt could certainly have better gear, but I wasn't always meant to be able to take on 5 enemies at a time and come out unscathed. If that were always the case, then there wouldn't be much of a challenge and the overall enjoyability of The Witcher would decrease. In any case, rant aside, I returned to the Druid's Grove with the psilocybe and handed it to the Hierophant.
Yes?
I have the mushroom you wanted.
Excellent. I'll add it to the potion, then send the birds to deliver it.
Is the meeting set?
Yes, we'll leave when you're ready.
You said we'd leave when I was ready.
So, may we depart?
I'm ready.
We are to meet in a clearing. My friend will come too. It's the least I can do to help.
I've never fought alongside a wyvern.
Let's go.
Well, would you look at that? It's been a while, but I actually have backup for a critically important fight. It's crazy to think that it comes from a sacred priest and a wyvern, two NPCs who could probably care less about the continent's politics. Now, not to leave you hanging or anything, but please remember this exact moment in the game. This literal part, Geralt wandering over to the area of interest, will be extremely relevant in the near future. That's all I'll say for now. Leave it nice and cryptic. My current objective is to escort the Hierophant over to the logging camp, and of course, he takes his sweet time. Everyone else who's ever been his ally is always sprinting on ahead, but not the Hierophant. He's never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. As soon as the Hierophant steps onto his marker, he tells Geralt to take up arms as the bandits will be here soon. In a matter of moments, Salamandra lackeys start to run out from the fog. Strangely enough, accompanying them are Kikimor warriors. At first, I thought their arrival was purely coincidental. However, after seeing that they weren't attacking the bandits, I knew something was up. Was there some offhand alliance between the monsters and Salamandra? Could this explain why there's a Kikimor infestation in Vizima's trade quarter? This matchup spurred on a lot of questions for me. Fighting tooth and nail, myself, the Hierophant, and his two wyverns, not just one, came out victorious. It was a grueling, rewarding, and epic battle. Probably one of my favorites to come out of the game thus far. Among the pile of corpses, I found Roland Blindheim's. His inventory looked almost identical to his brother's. There was yet another royal letter of safe conduct, turning it away from a coincidence and into a conspiracy, and he also had an encrypted document. My best guess was that this letter went in tandem with Gellert's code-breaking letter.
It's over. The Salamander leader is dead.
We are grateful and will always lend you aid. I return to my brethren. Keep safe.
That wraps up the quest, diplomacy, and hunting, and as far as I can tell, for now, that's it for the swamp. However, remember to keep that recent moment in mind, the one I had just told you about. That's incredibly important for later. No longer caring for violence or feeling the need to prove myself, I just booked it out of the swamp. I was ready to return to a more civilized region, one where I didn't have to fight something every 3 meters. Debatable on if that's what I'd actually be going back to, but at least there are friendlier faces and cleaner areas. Interestingly, on my way back, I laid eyes on something that, up until this point, I assumed to be a myth. Wandering by the clay pits in the nighttime, I saw one of the fabled Vodyanoi. It didn't look too far off from a drowner, but it did have some features that made it more distinct. For starters, it could speak. Well, sort of. It just kind of garbled. But more impressively, it wasn't hostile towards Geralt. It simply minded its own business and walked off into the water. I suppose there might be more to Vaska's deities than I originally thought. In any case, on my way out, there was one last thing that I wanted to take care of. Honestly, it was long overdue, and I think my chances have already been blown, but I wanted to grab those 5 samples of Celandine for Shawnee. She said that it could make some waves with fighting back against the plague, and maybe, just maybe, I could put myself in her good graces again. After all, she did help Geralt a lot in Chapter 2. Well, moment of truth, crossing over to the other side and wandering into her house, I tried again to get through to her. Unfortunately, as expected, nothing more than a cold dismissal. There was no opportunity to hand her the plants, and there was nothing more for Geralt to say. It's sad to see that that's likely where this relationship is going to end off, but with the decisions that were made, there's nothing more I can do. So, for now, it's off to the new Naracourt Inn in search of Levarden and Triss. Oddly enough, right outside, I found myself facing off against 3 Kikimor workers and 1 Salamandra bandit. Yet again, no fighting between the 2 factions. Strange tidings indeed. Before heading to the upper level of the tavern, I remembered that Thaler wanted a word after his whole discourse with DeWitt.
We meet again, Witcher.
Worked out that way, I guess.
I suppose I should thank you for saving my ass.
I'm still not sure it was smart to tangle with DeWitt.
Of course it was, provided you have Temeria's well-being at heart.
What do you mean?
There's something afoot.
You forget I'm a simple witcher.
It's like this. Before the king departed, he placed Vizima in my care. See?
Seems authentic. During my absence, I entrust you with...
I know you can read, Witcher, but notice both the king's seal and his signature.
I see. That isn't on the other edicts.
A seal can be stolen, but a signature is difficult to forge.
So the royal edicts are fakes?
Exactly.
I'd say that theory was already in place when I found Dollar cornered by Duet. However, this plays a big role in all of the official documents that I've been finding on Salamandra's goons. If what Dollar is saying is true, then whoever's forging these fake edicts is clearly in league with Salamandra.
Yes?
I have the papers you wanted.
Great. I'll deliver them to our codebreakers. Return tomorrow. We'll assay our next move.
For the time being, I decided to use my downtime wisely and looked into some other pressing matters, like for example, the Salamander pins. I have so many piled up in my inventory, and knowing that someone's willing to pay for them, I just had to figure out the secret there. Well, unfortunately for me, woe is me, I know, I don't think I'll be seeing the messenger around anymore. Even at midnight, when he used to frequent the Hairy Bear Tavern, he's nowhere to be found. At first, I wasn't quite sure why. Technically, I'm still not sure, but I do have a theory. I seem to remember the messenger stopped showing up right around the time I killed Ramsmeat. So, I'd have to assume that Ramsmeat was his boss who was willing to pay for Salamandra brooches. Yeah, I know, I messed up by killing him, but hey, those 800 orens went a long way. Kind of. This next chapter, though, has been a long time coming. Remember the whole Silver Sword arc from Chapter 2 and how Geralt was interested in finding the original owner? Well, I think it's high time that I spoke with the hospital gardener. If you recall, Jethro sent me to Taller, Taller sent me to the Gambler, and now the Gambler has sent me to the gardener. As of right now, no one's really sure how the sword ended up in his possession. Technically, this isn't relative to the main story, and really, it's more for flavor and lore on Geralt's past, but I think it's worth playing the dialogue for.
This hospital garden demands a caring hand.
You seem to like what you do.
Like it? I love plants and know 'em well. I spent my life dealing in bloodshed. Now's my chance for peace and quiet.
Bloodshed?
It's no point of pride, but I long earned my living as a mercenary. Those times are behind me now, and here I am, content.
I'm more interested in silver swords.
I knew one of you would come by eventually.
You lost it playing dice?
I was sure I'd win. Beware the sharp one plays well.
Where did you get this sword?
5 years ago there was a battle near Brenna. When the dust had settled, our men had beaten the Nilfgaardians. We ceased to call ourselves an imperial province that day.
You captured the sword during the battle?
Yes, it was Witcher Cohen's. A strapping fellow and a rare breed. Not very talkative, mind you.
Like most of us.
I gave my word the sword would find another Witcher. As he lay dying, he mumbled about teeth and destiny. Then he laughed at his own death.
Yet you lost it gambling?
I kept it hidden for 5 years. I lost hope I'd ever run into another Witcher. Miss Shani knew Cohen. She works at the hospital.
Thanks.
Good luck on the path.
Well, that puts an end to the mystery. It's already been established that this wasn't Berengar's sword, but now we know that it belonged to a Witcher named Cohen. He's obviously deceased, as put by the gardener. He died during the Battle of Brenna. Interestingly though, this was a war that Geralt partook in, so one can only wonder if their paths had ever crossed. From here, it's safe to say though that the rest of the investigation is dead and cold. The only person who can take it that step further is Shani, and unsurprisingly, she's still not talking to Geralt. Well, maybe that'll change one day, but for now, it's back to business. Almost. Outside of Shani's house, I ran into a dwarf named Zaheen Schmartz. As it would turn out, he's the dentist who's moved into Raymond's old home. For now, we just had a surface-level conversation regarding teeth, but I bet if I pried deeper, I could get some sort of quest or factoid out of him. Alright, now it's officially back to the new Neracourt Inn to see what Declan Levarden could have possibly learned.
What did you learn from those documents?
The location of the last Salamander cell in Vizima's merchant quarter.
I'll hurry there now.
Not so simple. It's beyond the supervised zone. Entrance is forbidden.
So what's the plan?
A city guard officer is our informer. He's posted in Vazima's streets.
How will I recognize him?
He'll respond to a password. Speak the words, "The lily has yet to be engulfed by flames."
I'm getting tired of this espionage crap.
He will answer, "3 lilies make 1." He will direct you to the hideout.
If I had an Orin for every time Geralt had to bust down a door to one of Salamandra's hideouts, well, I'd actually have a handful of Orins. Again, it just goes to show how influential and widespread this organization really is. Wasting no time, I left the inn and started wandering the trade quarter. As far as I knew, I was just looking for some kind of knight. However, beyond that, who and where was anyone's guess.
Geralt of Rivia.
In the flesh.
You managed to avoid the quarantine and gain official support. Martial law is in effect. Wartime rules apply.
I'll do my best to comply.
You'd better. Traitors taste steel.
The lily has yet to be engulfed by fire.
What? Do you want flowers or something?
I mean...
Go and bother somebody else, yes?
The lily has yet to be engulfed by fire.
What? Is that a password?
Is it?
Wait, are you testing me? Hey lads, I think we've got a troublemaker.
I better go.
I should toss you in the dungeon. You're lucky I'm receiving a medal from Princess Ada soon.
A medal?
For fighting the elven terrorists.
Aren't there more pressing problems? What about the plague? Monsters?
Do I look like a sap to you? A terrorist bags twice as much gold as a kikimor.
And they're probably much easier to capture.
Capture? One need only identify a non-human collaborator.
Well, not off to the best start here. However, as the old saying goes, third time's the charm.
The lily has yet to be engulfed by fire.
What?
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. 3 lilies make 1.
You could have thought up an easier password.
Okay, here's the plan. At midnight, my unit will arrive in the sewers.
You're not coming with me?
We'll watch your back, but only for 2 hours.
See you there.
Men! Turn hut! Forward march!
Of course, it's back to the sewers for Geralt. I'll explain later, but basically, for that portion, finding the correct knight, it's always going to be the 3rd knight that Geralt speaks to. Doesn't matter the order, it's always knight number 3. At the very least, that was my experience through 2 separate playthroughs. A little teaser there for you. In any case, for literally no reason other than to try and sell some things, I spotted a random merchant in the district and spoke with him. However, instead of the usual awkward banter, he ended up delivering a threat. Some mutual friend of ours said for me not to meddle in affairs that don't concern me. At the time, I really didn't know what this could have been about. However, thinking back on it, this more than likely had to do with me standing up for Dollar while he was being accosted by DeWitt. Already, the political drama is leaking over into Geralt's life, just as he said it would. Now, this next part may come as a surprise, but I decided to heck with it. Speaking with Triss, I caved in and decided that Geralt could give her that ring she so desperately wanted.
So you love me and have forgotten her?
Triss,
You're sweet, you know. The only one I trust. You've endured a lot. Time for a reward. The little one's asleep, so let me show you some real magic.
I'm just gonna skip over the scene because you already know what it entails, but that went better than I expected. Really, it seemed more like a display of dominance over Shawnee than it did a meaningful token for their relationship. I expected wedding details to follow, but not quite. It was just what Triss and Geralt tend to do in their downtime, I suppose. I promise I'll be heading into the sewers in just a moment, but in case you were wondering, I'm on Geralt's loose ends tour. I just wanted to see an ending for everyone and everything that he's encountered across the last 2 chapters. Next on the list was Kalkstein. I felt bad that I didn't get to see if there was an apology option the last time we had spoke, so trying again, I can officially confirm that there's no such thing. The only conversation left between these two is Kalkstein explaining his theory on what are essentially atoms, and Geralt just rolling his eyes at him. It's actually a pretty comical scene, but it's not really relevant to our past. Alright, with that out of the way, I was now ready to head into the sewers at midnight. From the trade quarter entrance, the knight and his men were waiting for me at the end of the tunnel.
Comrades, the ladder.
Everything ready?
We're expecting the salamanders shortly.
They know we're here?
No, but they're vigilant. They have an important guest.
The guards bring over a ladder, and using it, Geralt's able to pop out into a restricted section of Vizima. He's basically behind all of those barriers and blockades that you might have seen in the trade quarter. For now, it's relatively quiet here. Heading over to the marked house though, that's all about to change.
Just a moment. Hurry! Now to begin. Akayala Ambra Kur. We have picture. A blurry one. We may not connect with the Redanians today. Easy, the crystal's warming up. I'll boost the magical correlation. It worked! We have picture!
I greet you.
Greetings, sir.
Enough formalities. What do you want?
Our military bases around Vizima have been broken up. Spies from Nilfgaard may have played a part.
So you're hip deep in manure. Why contact me?
Sir, we're requesting financial assistance.
Why would I help you?
Our mutual acquaintances are working for people with close ties to you.
You must think me mad.
But sir...
You're in over your heads. All your experiments, fifth tech deals. I won't help you.
Shh! Hear something? In the corridor!
Geralt's cover gets prematurely blown, and from here, all hell breaks loose. Admittedly, this fight took me a couple of tries. The officers in and of themselves are relatively difficult foes, but it's the mage that kept giving me a run for my money. He ends up summoning an Ifrit to aid them. I guess this is something that all Salamandra magic users know how to do. In any case, for this fight, I found that sticking to the steel sword and taking out the humans first worked best, and then, when ready, I could switch to the silver sword and focus on the conjuration. Not necessarily a law or anything like that, but it helped in the moment. When all was said and done, I walked into the central room and noticed that the communication portal was still up and running.
Bravo! An impressive slaughter. Here I feared those idiots would bore me with incessant pleas, but they proved entertaining after all.
Who are you?
Radovid. I don't like being interrupted.
Listen, Radovid, I don't much care what you like. You'd better explain your connection to Salamandra. I'm sure we'll meet someday.
Nobody said that to me in a long time. I like you. You go straight for the jugular. I'll tell you who I am. I'm not out of fear. I share nothing in common with Salamandra, absolutely nothing. I once thought to use them as a tool, but I changed my mind.
A tool?
Political leverage, Witcher.
Can you be clearer?
I can, but I won't. Suffice to say that Salamandra's actions don't suit me right now, which makes us allies. Good luck, Witcher, and say hello to Ada.
Whoever this Radovid is, for the time being, it's unclear whether he's evil or not. I'd place my wager on yes, but in this game, you can never know for sure until it's too late. From here, I was a little confused on what to do next. The journal told me to grab some stone. I had picked up a stone-like object from one of the dead Salamandra, so I thought maybe my game's just bugged? This led me to the basement of the hideout, which evidently turned out to be an entirely optional portion of the base. With no stone in sight, I spent the next couple of minutes scratching my head. Was this it? Was my game glitched? Would I be forever stuck at this point of the story? Well, no, not at all. I just had to be more perceptive. That's usually the case. This stone was literally the rock that was right in front of the magical mirror. You know, the one that's glowing and shooting out magical light rays? The very obvious one in the room. Yeah, not my finest moment here. After getting my eureka moment, I was finally free to leave the hideout and could report back to Triss and Levarden. So I'll spare you the details. This is a fairly long cutscene that's void of dialogue. It's pretty reminiscent to the opening scene where Geralt is trying to cure Princess Ada of her affliction. The werewolf and the witcher go back and forth for a bit. However, the strange thing is that it seems like the beast doesn't want to fight Geralt. The witcher essentially chases it up and down the block, and the werewolf is actively trying to get away. This goes on for some time until finally we get some kind of conclusion, albeit a bewildering one.
Geralt. You know me?
It's me. It's me, Captain Vincent.
This explains your disappearances at night.
I was covering you. Those imbeciles didn't even crawl from the sewer.
You want thanks?
Just tell me what you learned.
Radovid spoke to the salamanders through a teleprojection.
The King of Redania? Some support?
No, he refused, but they have mutual friends.
Anything else?
Nothing special.
We're on the same side.
I can help you break the werewolf spell.
No need. I'm better at catching criminals this way. Also, the criminals fear this terrible monster that defends the poor. Meaning me.
Why should I spare you?
Why wouldn't you?
You kill humans.
How many have fallen by your sword? I'm not a monster on the inside, unlike you.
You're right. Appearances don't matter.
Thank you. Let us both be on our way.
Well, there you have it. The werewolf is Vincent, and no offense to the voice actor, he probably did the best he could with the script that he was given, but man, that was cheesy. The growls and snarls, the raspiness in his voice, they could have just done a simple voice modification in post or added realer sounding effects for those animalistic noises. Anyways, I digress. As you saw, I had the option of either fighting Vincent or letting him go. The fight likely would have been epic, but I really did believe in staying my blade. The city's already so far gone as is. Maybe something as unconventional as a vigilante werewolf could do some good. From here, the only way out of this area is through Mice's Batcave. In the basement of an abandoned forge, the guard captain has an entire setup consisting of weapons, armor, provisions, and books. Geralt thinks it's concerning, but I thought it was pretty neat. In any case, this leads the Witcher back down into the sewers and then allows him to emerge out into the streets of the trade district. At this point, I was just ready to turn in everything I had learned to Levardin and Triss.
Yes?
I found a magical stone at the Salamandra hideout.
Show it to Triss. She knows about such things.
I thought.
I know nothing about magic.
Listen, I found a magical stone at the Salamandra hideout.
Interesting. Let me see. Geralt, it's a telecommunicator. It leaves a magical trace of any transfers.
Use plain language.
With a bit of luck, we can use this to find the Salamandra base.
So?
I need to speak with Levardin. We'll talk later.
We have news about Salamandra.
Good news, I hope.
Alas, no. Its influence reaches further than we anticipated.
And you have an offer for me.
Why the sarcasm? Salamandra has strong political backing. We've been unable to convince town or military authorities to take them on.
How's that possible?
I suspect it relates to recent suspicious edicts.
What will you do?
We need support. An army unit or similar force.
How does that involve me?
We'd like you to negotiate with our potential allies.
Who do you have in mind?
Salamandra have ruffled some feathers. The Squareton, the Order of the Flaming Rose.
I'll see what I can do.
If you succeed, we will meet them here.
At this point, my objectives all get streamlined. The goal is to build a force that's strong enough to take Salamandra head on. Who those allies could be? Well, the game's really throwing me through the ringer on this one. It's now time to officially choose between the Scoia'tael and the Order of the Flaming Rose. I either need to seek out Yavin, the leader of the Freedom Fighters, or Siegfried, a holy knight of the Order and my friend. Chatting with Velerad, the Burgomeister of Vizima, he refuses to take a stance. Why that is? Well, he can't exactly say. More tight-lipped politicians is exactly what this city needs. Now, listen, I hate the idea of making an enemy out of the Scoia'tael. They're essentially fighting for equal rights and just want to be treated the same as humans. Sure, their methods are not as good, but when all is said and done with Salamandra, I'd love to see their goals accomplished. However, I've had nothing but bad experiences with them, and Geralt already has an in with the Order. Siegfried is his friend, and as far as Holy Knights go, he seems to have a good head on his shoulders. I literally have no idea where I'd even go looking for Yavin, so because of that, I'm choosing the Order as my allies on this one. Unfortunately, that ends up plopping Geralt directly in the middle of their mess. Now, before I go find Siegfried, I paid a little visit to Triss and asked about the stone I had found.
Know anything more about that magic communicator I gave you?
It allows conversations over short distances. With some knowledge of magic, one can draw quite a bit of information from it. If the salamanders were using it to communicate with their base, I should be able to pinpoint its location.
Short distances. Interesting. Can you check the last communication?
The communicator sent a signal to a house in Vizima. It's marked on your map. Is there something I should know?
I have a hunch. I'll check it out.
All right, but be careful.
An interesting development, and one that'll be relevant real soon. Now, as for Siegfried, I had remembered seeing him standing guard outside the Order's base in the Temple District. Wasting no more time and wanting to exploit our friendship, I rushed over to the Holy Knight immediately.
I'm listening.
If you detest Salamandra, I have a proposition.
What is it?
I have powerful friends who can destroy that organization.
I don't know if I trust you.
Still manning your post?
Work hard, play hard. Any ideas on what to name my new unit?
Flaming Spears of Destruction.
Very well. Flaming Spears of Destruction.
Why are you here?
I'm wondering about the introduction of martial law. I must prepare my unit. I need other assistance, however.
With what?
People disappearing in the town cemetery. Go investigate.
Is there payment?
Certainly. Besides the Order's gratitude.
I'll go look.
I'll pray for you.
Know anything about the cemetery?
Only that people truly fear to venture there, for ghouls abound. The cemetery cannot be inaccessible to the townsfolk.
I guess everything we've been through hasn't been enough for him. I suppose too, though, the only thing that we've actually been through is slaying a cockatrice together, so I get it. For now, I'll have to further prove myself, and it appears as though that's done by heading into the cemetery. Psych! Do you remember that moment in the swamp? The one that I said to never forget? Well, my worst fear has officially come to pass. I played through the rest of Chapter 3 and had gotten close to Chapter 4, only to realize I never pressed the record button. Thank the Waterlords I had one autosave that went far enough back. It happened to be just before the fight with Roland Blindheim, while I was escorting the Hierophant over to the logging camp. I didn't bother to re-record all of the preceding quests, and in fact, having the luxury of skipping past the dialogue and knowing how to better handle myself in these fights, it didn't take me too long to catch up to where I left off and to finish off the chapter. Although, boy was I paranoid the rest of the time that my screen was actually being captured, but safe to say no more hiccups. Because I didn't do this my first go-around, I decided to quickly look into the communicator's hotspot that Triss had pointed out to me. It ended up leading Geralt to a random house, and inside, I came across Radovid, the King of Redania. Unexpectedly, Radovid the Stern was actually a good guy, or better put, he wasn't hostile toward Geralt. In my book, that goes for something. Geralt and the king go back and forth for quite some time. There's a bit of a tell-all on Radovid's side. I learned that his father was murdered by the Nilfgaardian kingdom, and ever since then, he's sought retribution and justice for his lands. Radovid then doubles down on what Dalar had previously brought up. The royal edicts are fake. This means that King Foltest did not declare martial law, and that there shouldn't be a curfew nor a quarantine. Whoever's behind this is actively aiding Salamandra's agenda. Next, Radovid mentions that he knows a sorceress named Philippa Eilhart. She belongs to a magical clan called the Lodge of Sorceresses, same as Triss. Even though Geralt defends Triss and vouches for her, the king says to keep a watchful eye. Sorceresses are known to be incredibly influential and believe that it's their job to steer the fate of the continent. The last thing that Geralt and Radovid speak of is Princess Ada. Keep in mind, up until this point in their conversation, Radovid still hasn't told Geralt that he's the king, but even the werewolf, Vincent Mice, could figure it out. Radovid says that he wants the king, aka him, to marry Ada. This way they could combine the powers of their kingdoms, weed up the traders, and increase their levels of trade. He also asks Geralt if she can bear children. Quite the odd question for the Witcher, but I suppose he was referring to her Striga affliction. In the end, it's a great moment for Geralt to learn more about the powers at play. The information goes toward the side quests, All the King's Men, but doesn't necessarily have much to do with the main questline itself. Speaking of which, now it's off to the cemetery. Something to remember is that from the gameplay you see, I've had the benefit of already going over it once. I'll be sure to call out any areas that I had issues with my first go around, because believe me, there were a lot. Entering the restricted area, it's just as creepy and dystopian as I remember it. This time though, there are fresh corpses littered around the graveyard. It's as if someone or something has been hunting in the area. Heading toward the center, I can hear these vicious ripping noises and the sounds of snarling. Rounding the corner, I could see a graveyard snacking on a human's corpse. Getting close to it, again, Geralt encounters yet another first.
Delicious. Ooh, where are my manners? Never seen a ghoul before?
Not one that talks.
I hate to boast, but I am exceptional. My kin prefer growling.
I found some human corpses.
Hey, not my work. I don't eat live ones. I'll tell you who's to blame if you spare my life.
Agreed.
The pointy-eared ones. They rob graves and sneak about. Whoever's in their way, they kill.
And your group leaves them alone?
But they taste terrible, and they bring us food.
Thanks. Now shove off.
Be seeing you.
I think both myself and Geralt are amazed at the intelligence of some of these creatures. It almost feels like there's a world where they can live side by side with humans and non-humans. You never know what's possible. In any case, standing awkwardly in one of the cemetery's corners, I can see the culprits that Vitala had mentioned. Getting in close, the band of Scoia'tael warriors approached and confronted Geralt.
What do you seek here, Witcher?
Murderers.
Then visit the city. It's inhabited by a criminal race. We fight to survive. Humans only comprehend force, and thus will we talk to them.
I doubt you'll live long.
You threaten us, Dwan? But no, 6 ape people, including women and children, remain inside the crypt, with the ghouls. Kill us, and you'll never reach them in time. Aid them, and we'll be free. Choose, mutant.
While I didn't want to let the elves and dwarves go, there was one key thing I had to remember. WWSD. What would Siegfried do? Obviously, the morally correct option here is to save the people in the crypt. Furthermore, I don't even really know if the Holy Knight would care that much about Geralt killing Scoia'tael, especially if it came at the cost of human lives. The crypt is unsurprisingly incredibly dark. Fortunately, it doesn't take much adventuring to find the pack of ghouls and the citizens. A few combos with Silver Sword group style and the way out was clear. The dialogue here was mostly just the citizens professing their gratitude, which honestly, save it for Siegfried, I need the street cred. Once all wrapped up in the graveyard, I was free to report back to the Holy Knight.
I dealt with the cemetery issue, but...
What happened?
Besides the talking ghoul, the Scoia'tael played a role, robbing graves and slaying anyone in their path.
A talking ghoul? Perhaps you've taken one elixir too many. Be serious now.
I saved the humans thrown to the ghouls, but the murderers fled.
Eternal fire, like a true knight. Fret not, my units will catch the murderers.
I don't understand.
You saved innocence. No greater good could you have done. You deserve a bonus. I'm proud of you.
400 orens richer, but no more communication with Siegfried. During my first run through, I was here for a good minute or so just scratching my head. I didn't know how to reach him again, but I didn't realize that this was just a stepping stone for the grander story.
Master Richard!
What, boy?
The bank's been robbed. Master Velorad said we should fetch a Witcher.
What's going on?
Follow me, Master Geralt!
There's always something larger at play. Maybe it was just a coincidence that both the cemetery and the bank were being attacked, or perhaps it was a clever distraction by the Scoia'tael. Keep the Order busy with alleged monster attacks while they send a message to Vizima's elite. Not bad at all on the freedom fighters' end.
We need help! The bank's being robbed!
Strange. I wouldn't think Siegfried would let an opportunity like this slip by.
We need help. Armed robbers have occupied the bank. They've taken hostages.
Let's wait for Siegfried.
He's coming!
Just in time.
Sorry I'm late. I was assembling the assault force.
Greetings, Siegfried. Shall we negotiate?
It's about time we did something.
How do we get in?
We got the key to the town hall. We'll surprise them from the back.
I thought we were negotiating.
I'd rather negotiate without an arrow in my eye.
It's certainly an all-hands-on-deck type of call. The Order and the City Guard have blocked off all of the entrances or exits leading to Town Hall / the bank. Whatever's going on inside must be huge. Giving Siegfried the go-ahead, together we made our way to the back of Town Hall and assessed the situation.
We're in! Onward!
Is it true you wish to negotiate, Dwan?
Dwan? Dwan? Who is this Dwan they're incessantly going on about?
It means human, Siegfried. Yes, we're here to negotiate.
With terrorists? Never!
Bloody Dwan.
We're not here to fight, Siegfried.
Why else? To be ambushed and killed?
This can be settled without anyone else getting harmed.
If you must speak with terrorists, do it alone.
You win. Attack!
For the Flaming Rose!
So, during my first run-through, I had actually tried to see what this negotiation path would have led to. However, Siegfried gets upset with Geralt and it seems like he forsakes him. Scared of what that would have entailed for our alliance, I reverted to the previous save on my previous try, I know confusing, and just went through with the attack. While I would have been curious on the peaceful option, at this point, I'd rather just keep my allies happy.
Witcher!
Yes?
To the vault! You must get their leader.
But...
before it's too late.
Together, myself and Siegfried continue to slash our way through the Scoia'tael forces. The first 2 rooms of the building were never that tricky for me to clear. However, it's what comes next that had me hitting the retry button a few times.
You killed elves. You killed our people. What does that get you?
Yavin, calm down. You still have a choice.
No, Dwan. You chose for me when you raised your arm against us. At him!
Glad there are no matches.
You chose wisely. The Order of the Flaming Rose will be grateful.
Siegfried? What are you doing here? You shouldn't...
No time to explain. Yavin is escaping into the sewers.
For my first time playing through this segment, I died a handful of times. Even for the second go-around, it wasn't all that easy and there were a few close calls. There's something about those dwarven berserkers that I just couldn't figure out. They were some of the only enemies in the game that I've seen carry shields. Their abilities to block were incredible. Basically, if Geralt's group-style attack is blocked or parried at the beginning of the combo, it essentially cancels out completely. So, being swarmed by a group of dwarves with godlike blocking abilities, it took me a long time to get something going here. Fortunately, no deaths on the second playthrough, and when ready, Siegfried and I ventured down into the sewers.
The eternal fire guides me.
Let's just get him.
This last section of the chase is relatively short. Geralt and Siegfried are in some special area of the sewer. It looks a little too nice to be a part of what I've been crawling around in. It almost appeared to be the remnants of an abandoned kingdom or something of the sorts. There was even a strange looking throne in one of the rooms. Either way, after killing an enemy that I can't quite show on YouTube and looting its quarters, I followed the elven trail and battled more of the Scoia'tael. I truly believed that there was going to be some kind of resolution with the Yavin, but alas, the elf leader had disappeared into the sewers. All he left behind were some of his fall guys, and while it seemed like a loss, it ended up being the last push that Siegfried needed.
It seems he escaped.
But we expelled him from the bank.
Thanks to your aid. How can I reward you?
You can help me dismantle Salamandra.
Interesting idea. But how?
I have certain powerful friends who know how to destroy that organization.
Am I to be embroiled in some political plot?
Siegfried, we've gone through so much together. You trusted me at the bank.
All right. Any details?
There's a banquet every evening at the new Naracourt Tavern. Come by tonight.
I'll be there.
Wait for our sign.
It only took an entire battle with the Scoia'tael to get him to trust me, but hey, here we are. With a powerful ally on Declan's side, that should hopefully be what he needs to destroy Salamandra. Just think what the Order of the Flaming Rose could accomplish if they put their minds to fighting crime instead of monsters and non-humans. Either way, from here, there's just a little bit of housekeeping that needs taken care of. Firstly, reporting back to the Burgomeister, Geralt tells him that the bank is now safe, but that Yavin escaped. Luckily, Velerad seems to have a good head on his shoulders, for now, and he's just happy that all's well again. Next, before talking with Luvarden, I wanted to tell Triss that we found a new ally in the Order.
Listen, I've found us some allies.
Great. In time for our meeting with Luvarden. We'll discuss it with him.
Agreed.
Geralt, you should know we've angered some powerful people. This meeting could change much.
What do you mean?
Tend to any unfinished business in Vizima, and prepare. Afterwards, it may be too late.
I'm ready. Let's meet at the new Naracourt.
I'll inform the interested parties.
How do you know who?
I'm a sorceress, remember? And you think so loud, I can't help reading your mind.
Every time I hear this in a video game, I always have to point it out. This is the devs' not so subtle way of saying you will not be coming back here / the world is about to change. Finish side quests, buy gear, talk with NPCs, go exploring. After whatever's about to happen next, you won't have the chance to do any of that. Entering the inn, I ran into someone who I certainly wasn't expecting to come across again.
You're in danger.
What? Why?
The militia learned of your meetings. Salamandra has spies in the army. You must flee.
No, I won't. I must speak to the others.
The Salamanders will be here soon.
So I'll face them. You run.
Are you mad? I knew you wouldn't run. I even counted on it. Don't get yourself killed.
You too, werewolf.
Will you fight alongside a werewolf? Our trap worked both ways.
Not entirely.
So here's my reward for letting Vincent Mice live. Because I chose to not slay him in the trade court or courtyard, he's now here to back me up in the tavern. Obviously, the heads up and the help is nice, but what's more, it has a direct effect on Geralt's personality. If you recall, at the beginning of Chapter 3, Triss asks Geralt, what kind of man does he want to be? What are his beliefs? How does he react in situations? And who does he align with politically? Well, this moment is a direct reflection of that.
I let Vincent live. A deadly beast. A changing world. New, more dangerous monsters. Fistek. Slavery. Banditry unpunished. Werewolves are no longer the enemy. No longer the evil lurking in the dark. A dark avenger. Keeper of peace. The world's changing. And Vincent's a decent werewolf.
As soon as all of Geralt's assailants have been taken care of, the Witcher nods a farewell to Mice and ascends to the upper level. Here's the moment of truth, meeting of the Fellowship. Declan, Siegfried, and Triss are waiting for him on the other side of the door.
Geralt, we were waiting.
Greetings.
I was worried.
Decided anything?
The Order is apparently willing to cooperate.
We will rid Vizima of this evil once and for all.
Misunderstandings do arise between different members of the Order, but I take it we're clear about what we're doing.
Misunderstandings?
No matter. Apparently we're to be magically transferred somewhere.
Triss will teleport you and Siegfried to the Salamandra base. You'll open the gates for the knights.
When?
Still needs deciding.
Quiet. I hear footsteps. Was I followed?
The door is locked.
Open up in the name of King Foltest and the Flaming Rose!
It's De Wet. Traitorous monk. A disgrace to our profession.
I didn't foresee this problem.
Siegfried, I know you're associating with that witch! You're finished!
Triss, can you transfer us now?
Is that wise?
This may be our only chance. Akimbaga Hara!
I knew this knight who turned to soup while being teleported.
I'm counting to 3! You're screwed, Siegfried!
Soup? Maybe,
Dark Ambra der Hadrin!
And just like that, Geralt gets zapped to who knows where. Siegfried is nowhere to be found, and Geralt seems to be all alone in the dark. So, this was where I had made it up to for the whole unrecorded session of this playthrough. Thankfully, I had that one last autosave from the swamp, and I didn't lose the rising action for the finale of Chapter 3. From here on out, this was all experienced from a first-timer's perspective, so please enjoy the shoddier experience. Wherever Triss brought me to, it does seem to be a Salamandra base of some kind. On the other side of the cave, I encountered a whole band of bandits. Even though this was a deep, dark, dank, wet hole in the ground, this seemed to be their living quarters. I could only wonder why they were here and or what they were looking for. A little further down the line, after meandering through the natural tunnels, Geralt had managed to locate Siegfried.
There's no time to lose.
Siegfried?
Open the gate and let the order inside.
Where's Triss?
She stayed behind to deal with that lunatic De Wet. She told me to warn you that Azar has gained immense power thanks to some book.
I know the story.
Would you take on the entire base yourself?
Any ideas?
The Salamanders are using a magic portal to enter their base. Cursed elven magic.
Can we use it?
The sorceress said it is activated by a magic stone. There is something of the sort in the cave, to the right.
Getting a good look, there appears to be a small army of bandits on the other side of the chamber. Not wanting to deal with those just yet, I peeked around the corner and saw a lone mage guarding another one of those magical stones. Taking him and his conjurations out of the picture, me and Siegfried were able to secure the rock and use it to our advantage. Carefully advancing to the center of the room, crossing my fingers that I wouldn't trigger any of the bandits, I managed to make it to the portal and fired it up for use. With members of the Order now through, I let them initiate the battle. It was an all-out skirmish between Siegfried's forces and the Salamandra. Of course, the criminals were no match for skilled knights in heavy armor. Our forces ended up steamrolling through theirs. While before I had said that the Hierophant fight was one of my favorites, I'd say that this one now takes the cake for overall. It was incredibly fun and epic, and in my eyes, it cemented some of Geralt's views and allies for this playthrough. Once the dust had settled, I spotted both the Professor and Azar Javed standing at the back of the cave. Readying myself, I approached the duo and confronted the leaders.
White Wolf, we've been expecting you.
I see we're all here. Good. We can resolve this.
Ha, you've learned nothing from our last meeting. Even Siegfried of Denel would follow you into fire. All is aligning with the grand plan. Should you demonstrate wisdom, you'll see it realized.
What if I refuse? Witches are simple and sentimental.
Don't make me laugh, Geralt. Simplicity suits you like a fist in the nose, and sentimentality suits you even less. You can't deny that. You're too smart. Besides, who do you want to defend? Foltest, a monarch with more sins on his conscience than the Professor has long words in his vocabulary? Foltest impregnated his own sister and let his offspring eat the city's inhabitants for years. Furthermore, during the war, he allowed Nilfgaard to plunder and torch neighboring allied kingdoms.
What's your point, Javed?
If not Foltest, then who? The Lodge of Sorceresses? You know not what those bitches did to influence post-war treaties. The resettlements, deportations, the unresolved matter of the Scoia'tael and others.
Your dazzling conclusion?
Salamandra is not evil, not more than those with the will to shape their own fate.
If Salamandra is not evil incarnate, then what of Javed? Immorality, rape, murder, treason. What would you call this creature?
The future, evolution, or destiny?
Screw that future. I'd rather fight a nightmare, even if it's hopeless.
Remember the magic book from the tower in the swamp. Observe some useful spells. I never expected so little challenge from a witcher. Professor, let's go.
I lost the skirmish in the swamp. Javed made off with the book. This marked the true beginning of our conflict. Though Javed escaped once more, on balance, things are rather favorable. 3 Salamandra bases annihilated, new allies gained, and the Professor for dessert.
Geralt, are you well?
What happened?
What a blow. And a miracle you still live.
I am alive.
Professor escaped, and the barrier blocks our path.
I'll find him.
I suppose the ragtag duo know that Geralt is the better fighter, and therefore they have to resort to cheap tricks and sucker punches. If anything, that should be an ego booster for Geralt, not that Witchers really need that sort of thing though. Fortunately for me, the Professor and Yavin only went as far as fleeing to the next chamber over. For the time being, all I had to fight were the Salamandra lackeys. I didn't have to bother with the leaders nor the swarms of Kikimors down here. Again, it was strange to see the insects living in harmony with Salamandra, and it further strengthens the claim that they had something to do with Vizima's infestation.
The book in the swamp contains some interesting spells, including Alzor's shield, which even Professor can use to destroy you. Observe.
I seriously doubt it.
Goodbye, Geralt.
No doubt your life will end soon, and how useless it's been. You'll die knowing you're an aberration.
You're so full of shit, Professor.
Why do you seek to prevent the creation of new witches? The answer's simple. You feel you have no rightful place in this world. You owe your existence to the conjunction of spheres. But your creators erred. Know how?
Enlighten me.
They failed to strip you of emotion. You were meant to slay monsters without making judgments, philosophizing, or nursing doubts. You're ineffective.
Well, this ineffective, doubt-ridden historical freak is about to kill you. Let's dance.
So I was actually pretty confused for most of this fight. The setup was fairly simple. It was Geralt against Kikimor warriors and the Professor. However, the Professor had some sort of active effect. He was shrouded in lightning, and getting in close, Geralt would periodically get zapped. At the same time, depending on my fighting style, I wouldn't be able to inflict any damage. I wasn't sure if the two were linked, or if I needed to attack the Kikimors first. Perhaps some combination of signs were needed. In the end, I decided to just keep it simple, purely focus my attention on the Professor, and stuck to fast style. Lo and behold, it worked, and before long, I had him right where I wanted him.
You've triumphed. Go ahead. Your invaluable witch's treasure awaits. You have what you wanted. Show mercy. Never hurts to ask. So you can parry arrows in flight.
Even though the Professor is officially dead, meaning one of Salamandra's many heads has been cut off and Leo has been avenged, there's no time to celebrate. Geralt is stuck in the Kikimor Queen's lair. Attempting to fight it, the monster ends up one-shotting me. So it seems like flight is the answer here. Honestly, this part was the true bane of Chapter 3's climax. In order to escape the Queen, Geralt has to knock down the support beams in the cave. If he doesn't have enough clearance though, and believe me, he needs a lot, the debris just topples down on top of him. This section took me way longer to clear than it should have, and realistically, it's probably not even that hard. I don't know why I was incapable of following basic instructions, but alas, in the end it all got settled. There's one final chamber that holds a handful of support beams. Blasting one with Ard and clearing the area, the entire Salamandra base comes crashing down, and it crushes all of the Kikimors, including the Queen. From here, Geralt makes a comment that he needs to cut into the beast's belly. Apparently, the Queen had time to fully eat the Professor. Sweet, sweet justice. Inside her stomach, I found a couple of interesting items. Namely, there was a report left behind by the professor as well as a letter. In tandem, they reveal the twist of the chapter. Princess Ada has been working for Salamandra the whole time. All of the royal edicts, martial law, their political advances, it's all because Princess Ada has been aiding them. No wonder Geralt's medallion started to vibrate when they were doing their thing. There's more going on with her than meets the eye, and when it comes down to it, she's just as guilty as Azar Javed and the professor. With this newfound information, letters that could topple the whole regime, I'm free to leave the cave, find Triss, and settle this whole mess once and for all.
I should have known you'd discover who was behind the counterfeit royal seals. I was wrong to see you merely as a monster slayer.
The better you know me, the more impressive I become.
Any chance you haven't deduced everything?
Not much. I know you plan to stage a coup, assume power while your father is away. I also know you found an ally in Salamandra.
My plans remain unchanged, and you won't stop me. I condemn you to death, sentenced to be carried out at once.
Your Highness.
Sorry, Geralt. The right of state never sleeps.
As the condemned, I have the right to a last wish. One last kiss from you.
A scandalous request. But the last wish is a sacred custom. So be it.
You wish, Witcher.
He has been spirited away. Someone will pay for this.
You fell out of that strange hole in the sky.
Clever girl.
Mother says I meddle.
Perhaps.
I know everything. Ask me.
What is this place?
This is the shore. Beyond lies murky waters, and beyond that, fields. By boat, you can get to the island.
You do know a lot.
I know everything. Ask me.
What's happened here recently?
Alina, the village chief's daughter, will soon marry. For gold, Mother says.
Right.
Mother also says Alina's sister Selena yearns for Julian. He's Alina's fiancé who lives at the inn. What does yearn mean?
She really likes Julian.
Oh, then Julian yearns for Alina, Selena yearns for Julian, and Alina likes Julian's gold but yearns for Adam. Adults are stupid.
Undeniably.
I know everything. Ask me.
I saw a city.
The submerged city of an ancient race full of treasure and monsters. Now fish people live there. I fear them, but the one sitting by the statue of the lady seems jolly.
I'm losing track.
And I sometimes take fish to the sick and poor elves when the Fisher King catches them. And on the island you can meet the lady, more beautiful than Alina. She yearns too.
I'm completely lost.
Stupid adults. How can you take care of us when you don't understand and you're always yearning?
Do you know who I am?
You have white hair, like every grandpa. You're ugly, but I like you.
That's lucky.
I know everything. Ask me.
Is the shore safe?
Yes. Sometimes those evil fish people creep out of the water and drive off the funny fishermen. I hide under the fisherman's hut.
Clever.
Of course.
Take care.
With the quick getaway provided by Triss, Geralt has been ushered away to a distant land. This is what closes out Chapter 3 and brings on Chapter 4. As was clarified, Princess Ada is now on to Geralt, and if he ever gets to return to Vizima, I can't imagine there will be a warm reception. This explains DeWitt's suspicions of Siegfried and all of the spies in the Order and the town guard. The corruption runs as far as the literal princess of the kingdom herself. In any case, Geralt has all new problems to solve. Where was he teleported to? Where are his allies? What's become of them? And where does the story go from here? Tricky questions to answer, but with a little bit of perseverance, I'm sure The Witcher can reveal all.